Today, I want to spend a little bit of time with you to see how we can assist you with a topic that's top of mind to all of us right now, and that is our taxes. It is, of course, tax season, and this is my opportunity to see where we can offer you help. I would start by just kind of, again, summarizing kind of what I think my job is and where this particular seminar fits in. I really think of my job as having three buckets. The first bucket is national leadership, our national policies, contributing to our national laws, our national regulations, trying to make sure our federal government works across the board. The second part of my job is helping us out here in Hawaii. How can our federal government help us in Hawaii with our challenges right here in Hawaii? And the third part of my job is constituent services. So in other words, helping you with your particular concerns, your particular challenges, your particular needs for information. Over the last couple of years in particular, we've seen all three of those in spades, especially with COVID-19 and our response nationally to that. At the national level, we passed a number of emergency assistance packages, which helped our country, which changed in some cases temporarily our tax laws. That was on the first bucket. The second bucket, of course, we were trying to help our Hawaii, including about $20 billion or so of assistance now throughout Hawaii. But the third part was really a great challenge for us in this office because, of course, there were great needs across the country, great needs across Hawaii and my own constituents, including you. And so we had many, many requests for individual constituent assistance in my office. One of the largest areas of assistance requested was in the area of taxes because so much of the pandemic changed our normal everyday life, including our finances and our taxes. And there were a number of questions having to do with the stimulus payments, with child tax credits, and on and on. So as we hopefully start to come back out of COVID-19, back into a more normal life, we wanted to reach back out to you and provide assistance where we could with taxes specifically. And I will say up front that it's a challenging time, not only for many parts of our government and society, but for the Internal Revenue Service, which has been overwhelmed really in many cases across the last couple of years with all of the same issues that I've already talked to. The Internal Revenue Service is significantly, in my view, understaffed and overburdened right now with the sheer number of returns, the sheer number of questions that are coming into the IRS from citizens like you. And one of my real challenges in national leadership is to change all of that and to resource the Internal Revenue Service. So we are, in fact, getting the kind of assistance, the kind of prompt responses, the kind of prompt refunds, and the kind of prompt answers that we all deserve. That is a subject of letters and other initiatives that I am joining with my other colleagues in Congress on to assist. And so if you need more information on that, I'd be happy to share that with you. ed.case@mail.house.gov, ed.case@mail.house.gov. Also my website, case.house.gov. Now let me cover then some of the specifics on taxes, because the Internal Revenue Service not only does collect your taxes, but it does have programs of assistance. It does try to make its staff and its resources available to answer questions. We have an ombudsman, which is a dedicated customer service representative for the IRS, whose loyalty is not to the IRS, but to you, the taxpayer. They are technically employed by the IRS, but throughout our country, they are there to answer and really represent you before the IRS. We can definitely put you in touch with the ombudsman for the Internal Revenue Service. That's one of the things that we do regularly for our constituents who have questions on taxes or disputes with the IRS on taxes. Now, I can't get into the middle of an outright dispute between the IRS and a taxpayer, but I certainly inquire on behalf of taxpayers, make sure your concerns are heard, and where I can get you over to the ombudsman or others who can actually represent you before the IRS. The IRS also has a number of programs that are designed to provide tax assistance, especially to those families in some need and who perhaps can't afford, or at least for whom it's a more of a burden to hire professional tax assistants during tax season. And the one program that I want to focus on today is the IRS's VITA program, which is the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. Through this particular program, the VITA program, the IRS basically it sets up a grants initiative in each of the communities across our country designed to support free tax preparation services for especially underserved communities through partner organizations. And these are organizations and practitioners throughout our community who are very, very familiar with federal and to some extent state taxes as well, although this is a federal tax program that I'm dealing with right now and talking about. But the point is that folks are there to be able to assist you, especially if you qualify for the VITA program, which does exist in all 50 states. Our own VITA program started in 2006 with 4 sites and 32 volunteers. I'm talking about right here in Oahu. There are also presence in the other counties. It's been going for 15 tax seasons now, 55,800 clients, somewhere around $88 million of refunds realized, and saved a significant amount of tax prep fees. So the major thing I'm trying to do here is, besides giving you a little sense of what my office deals with and where I can assist you with your own tax challenges and issues and questions, is to get you exposed to the VITA service so that you can utilize that if and as you can. And so what I'm going to do here is to stop talking, and I'm going to turn you over to my guest here today, which is Susan Tamanaha. Susan is right here in Honolulu. She is the president and CEO of Hawaii Tax Help and Financial Empowerment Solutions, which is a nonprofit 501c3 organization that does provide free tax filing services to qualified individuals. And she has been operating the IRS VITA program here and helping qualified individuals with their challenges for over 15 years now, the entirety of the VITA program. Susan is a graduate of the University of Hawaii at Manoa with a Bachelor of Business Administration and got her law degree from the Richardson School of Law right here as well. So she's very, very competent to be able to run VITA program and to be able to assist you today. And so, Susan, with that, I am going to turn this over to you so that you can describe to our listeners who you are, what you do, and how to use VITA. And perhaps you could also, along the way, just talk a little bit about some of the main questions that people have on their federal taxes, especially as a result of the changes in federal law and the application of federal law during COVID-19. So over to you, Susan.
Hi, good morning, Congressman Case. Thank you very much. My name is Susan Tamanaha, and I am the president and CEO of Hawaii Tax Help and Financial Empowerment Solutions. Our primary mission is to assist low to moderate income Hawaii residents file both their federal and state tax returns for free. It's not low to moderate, it's low to moderate. So because there is a reason why a person with absolutely no income should file a return, especially a state return. We operate on every island in Hawaii except Lanai at the moment. Okay. My time is limited, and there are so many areas to consider. If you want me to talk about federal, I'll do that briefly. For 2021, which is the tax year that you're filing for, the federal government has increased the earned income tax credit. And that's a very valuable tax credit because it is what we call a refundable tax credit. A lot of credits that the government offers are non-refundable. And the difference is this as simply as I can put it. With a non-refundable tax credit, say you get a tax liability of $500 and a tax credit, a non-refundable tax credit of $1,000. 500 of that credit will go to eliminate your tax liability, and the other 500 doesn't get used. For refundable tax credits like the earned income tax credit, if you have a $500 tax bill and a $1,000 EIC credit, you will use 500 of the credit to eliminate your tax bill. The other $500 will come back to you as a refund. A lot of people believe that if they're single or they don't have children, they can't get this credit, and that's not true. If you have no children, and especially for 2021 because the amounts went up, if you have no children, you can get a maximum earned income tax credit of $1,502. Okay, that is going to decrease once again in next year, or 2022. It's going to go back down to $560. So I would advise anybody with earned income, and that is work income or self-employment income, to make sure that they file their returns because they might be eligible for this credit. For Hawaii,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
So that's the earned income tax credit is confusing to many people. We've had a number of questions in our office along those lines, and we've tried to get them answered, along with other areas that are confusing. But perhaps just before you get into some of these very specific kind of tax issues, could we just back up and talk about kind of the big picture of the IRS program that you've been administering for quite a long time now? I mean, did I describe it properly in my opening? And how do people, who is actually eligible to come to you for free tax assistance, tax filing, and where they may not be eligible to use VITA itself, which, as you pointed out, is designed for those in particular need, but just when people have, questions and needs on their tax returns, what other resources are available to them from the IRS or from the state of Hawaii for tax returns? So kind of big picture before we get into some of this stuff.
Okay, our income eligibility limit is at the moment 66,000. Nationwide, it's a little less, but we've put up the income level a little bit for Hawaii because our cost of living is so high. So that would be household income of 66,000. We use the tax flare program. That program has afforded me access to a self-prep. If you're willing to do your own taxes, you can get a special URL from me. You'd have to ask me for it. And that one allows you to file as long as your income doesn't exceed 73,000. That's a little new. I don't think there was an income limit last year, but they put one on this year. Other than that, there are some free file programs that the IRS also supports. Most of those, I have to explain, because most of those programs are free if you e-file the federal, but they will charge you for a state return. Okay.
E-file meaning electronic filing, right?
Right, electronic filing.
As opposed to paper filing.
Yes, and because the IRS is so backlogged right now, I would suggest that people do not paper file. They still haven't processed the year before, my understanding. And e-filing is just quicker. If you do a direct deposit into a bank account, it's very quick that you get your refund.
I think if I could, this is one of the top things that we want to say to people listening in, and that is that there is such a difference in terms of IRS processing and IRS responses, especially refunds, between paper filing by mail and electronic filing. Clearly the best way to to submit your tax returns and to have them processed, especially if you're looking for a refund, is electronic filing with bank information that they can directly deposit any refund checks. It's like night and day nowadays, and as Susan pointed out, and I spoke to it early, we really have a crushing backlog right now of IRS paper processing. In fact, I think it is the top concern in my office right now, especially in the tax area, is just timely refunds, because people are used to getting their refunds on time, and that's not happening right now. So anyway, Susan, if I could I just wanted to make that point. I think you would agree with that, right?
Absolutely. We encourage everybody to electronic file. And the difference is months now with respect to when you can get your refund. Unfortunately, there are some situations where you may have to paper file, such as when you're claiming an injured spouse claim. You know, you don't want the entire refund seized because a husband or a wife has child support payments that are being seized by the IRS. In those cases, you'd have to submit a paper return. But for the rest of the cases, I would suggest that they e-file as much as possible. Our program, also with respect to taxes, we try to hold some workshops during the summer to teach people how to do their own returns. It allows more people to come to our sites, and also people who are capable. It's very simple returns, like say one job, or just Social Security. If we can teach them to file their own returns, it would lessen the load on everybody, and the refund would come just as quick because they would be using a free file program to do so.
How long does it take the average person to actually do their own tax returns through one of these programs? Is it complicated, or is it how much training do you need in your estimation before the great majority of us can go ahead and just do it online or on our own?
If you have just one job and you don't have like a lot of investments, rental income and stuff like that, if you just have one simple job or two, just two W-2s, the first time around, because you have to navigate, I'd say it'd take you maybe an hour. After that, most programs, if you continue to use the same program, will pull forward your information from the previous year. And I would say it shouldn't take you more than half an hour, 40 minutes.
And so your VITA program, through your VITA program, to those that qualify, you do offer the program that people can actually utilize to educate and with your assistance, and then do their own tax returns, right?
Right. In fact, that special URL that I referred to earlier from TaxFlair, which is the program that the IRS tells us to use, that special URL is a self-prep URL. So you access it and you can prepare your own returns. You also have access to a VITA volunteer, and we will, if you need, I've been getting emails constantly from people who are asking questions, how to navigate the program, how to, answer certain questions, because you do have to get used to certain terminology. Like you have to know what a dependent is and things like that. But once you learn those things, those basic things, it's not that hard to prepare a return if all you have is a simple one.
And before I forget, because otherwise I probably will, how do people actually reach you? I mean, what is the contact information or the email address or website, or how do they? And I've been saying it wrong. I guess you guys say VITA. So the VITA program. What's the best way into the VITA program?
Okay, we have a website at www.hawaiitaxhelp.org, or they can email me directly at stamanaha@hawaiitaxhelp.org.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
at Hawaii Tax Help. Yeah.
I'm just writing it down myself so I can repeat it at the end of the show. So if somebody that's watching needs help, think they qualify, then they can go onto that site and or email you, and you and your team will be able to take them through the process of whether they do qualify, and if so, how to use you, right?
Yes, most of our sites are operated by, we established different sites all over the island. We also have long-standing partners such as credit unions, other nonprofits. If you go into the Hawaii Tax Help website, there will be a list of sites that are open to the public with a number to call for an appointment. And when you call, the appointment scheduler will ask you certain questions to determine whether or not you are eligible. There are certain things that the VITA program does not allow us to do. It's considered out of scope. And one of that is like rental income. So if you happen to be a landlord with rental income, where you're going to have a property that needs to have, depreciation and all that, that's out of scope for us. We don't do farming and fishing businesses. We don't do corporate and partnership taxes. We do self-employed sole proprietorships. So, as long as you don't have employees. Other than that, people who work, people who just get Social Security can come to us. Those with just Social Security or no taxable income on the federal side should still file, by the way, because Hawaii has certain credits that they are entitled to. And even if you have no income, for example, you can file a Hawaii return. We do piggyback that on a federal return, but you file a Hawaii return and you're entitled to get $110 of Hawaii food and excise tax credit. That's with zero income. So we have a lot of people coming in for that. And it's $110 per person. So if you're married, it's twice that. If you have kids, it's however many kids you have. Mm-hmm. You're also entitled in Hawaii to a low-income renters credit. There are eligibility rules for that because the property itself cannot be claiming a tax exemption, property tax exemption. So county housing and church housing would not be eligible. But if you're Section 8 and you're paying a little bit money out of pocket, as long as you pay $1,000 a year, you'd be eligible for that low-income renters credit. So you can ask these questions when you call in for an appointment. Okay. And they will explain it to you.
And then if somebody doesn't qualify for VITA, what do you tell them in terms of getting assistance with their taxes if their income is just above the VITA limits?
Okay, first of all, if their income is above the limit because of an extraordinary event, like say they lost their job and they got a lot of unemployment income, so it's not a usual thing, or they put out all of their 401k because they had to survive. We will take them. But if on a regular basis they're above our income limit, we actually have them try to use the self-prep site because that will allow them to do out-of-scope returns. And other than that, we actually are not permitted to refer people anywhere specifically. Right. Or give them any kind of advice as to who to use. Yeah. We're not permitted to do that, but we give them the resources where they can go if they don't want to use the taxpayer URL. There's a whole list of free file sites on the irs.gov website. Okay, I understand that you cannot, and you should not be referring folks directly to, a tax preparer, a professional tax preparer who charges for it, because that would create the appearance of favoritism or distinguish among a lot of people that do that in their line of work. But what would be your general advice then? Go to irs.com for advice on
on other modes of assistance, or what do you say to them?
If they have a very complicated returns, like say they have a K1 or they have a lot of investments and their income is above what we can do, um, I would suggest that you go to a paid preparer. Not a specific paid preparer, but a paid preparer. To me, if you have major investments and a lot of income coming in through K1s, maybe foreign income included, you should probably go to a CPA and make sure that these forms are being done correctly. Okay? Because a lot of these so-called commercial preparers, you have to check to make sure that you have somebody who's had experience in that area before. Because they do recruit every season and train volunteers just as we do.
Right.
I would go to a CPA.
Okay, so
Sure.
I guess what I'm hearing you say here is that, of course, under the VITA limits, they can get your help, and that's a service that our federal government provides. And then, kind of, if they're above that, limit, but the returns are still fairly straightforward, so above the limit income or Social Security or some very limited investment income, then there are resources available through the IRS that can provide some assistance, including self-filing. And then, of course, we do have the folks that pop up every year in the mall and elsewhere, and of course they are available as well. But if it gets more complicated than that, with K1s and a lot of stock and a lot of rental income and foreign income and the kind of things that start to complicate things, then you're saying you should probably get to a good solid CPA and invest in the CPA. Is that about right?
Exactly. You want to have your returns done correctly from the start, or you just be perpetrating a possible mistake for years before they catch it.
Right.
So I would suggest, they go to a CPA if it's complicated.
Okay. And then let's just go back for a second to where you were kind of starting up, because the questions I have in my office along the lines of taxes, aside from what we've already talked about, which is just the delays in processing, and especially the delays in refunds, is there have been a lot of there's been a lot more questions arising out of the federal and the state emergency assistance from COVID. So issues like are the stimulus payments taxable? How do I handle my unemployment? We've had the child tax credit. We have a lot of questions on the child tax credit. What are the common areas that are the questions you get all the time about the COVID assistance itself? And what are your answers on those?
Okay. Let's take unemployment first. Unemployment income is taxable. A lot of people don't understand that. When they apply for unemployment, they can opt to have taxes withheld, but most of them don't. And then they end up in tax trouble because they owe taxes on it. Last year, in 2020, the federal government exempted $10,200 of that unemployment benefits. In other words, they didn't tax the first $10,200 of unemployment benefits. That is no longer available for 2021. So all of your unemployment is taxable. And it's been presenting some problems because people have found that they owe money now. Child tax credit, most people, based on their 2020 return, received 1/2 of the credit that they'd be entitled to. The government did send you a letter. You should keep that letter, especially if you are a couple, because the government sent a letter to both the husband and the wife, and those amounts that are in that letter need to be added together. Okay, so it's not just one letter and one amount, it's 2 letters, and we have to add the amounts together. We would enter that into the tax return, and then the other half they'd be entitled to receive as a refund in their when they get the refunds for 2021. what was the other one you asked me about?
Stimulus
Child tax
payments,
credit.
although I think we're
The
pretty
stimulus.
straight on that,
Okay.
but
The stimulus payments are not taxable. They do ask that if you didn't get it, if you did not receive the stimulus payment, then we would enter it in your tax return. You get that back as a refund. Some people are confused because they didn't get the first two stimulus payments, but we can't claim those first two stimulus payments in the 2021 return. We can only claim the third one, which was $1,400. And if you got that or you didn't get that, we let them know. If you didn't get it, you get it as a refund. If you didn't get the first two, you have to amend your 2020 return, because there's no way we can claim it now for 2021.
and that's because I'm just trying to remember there were no. Let's see, stimulus payments went out in 2020 and some of 2021, right? Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
I'm just trying to get my years straight. Okay. What are some of the other areas that, from your experience, are confusing to people in terms of the COVID, changes or payments?
Like I said, for the earned income tax credit, some people are not aware that if they don't have children, they're entitled to a fairly large refund. And people sort of need to understand, because it's sort of difficult for people to understand how the EITC works. But the earned income tax credit sort of works like a bell curve. So if you earn no income, then you get no credit. As your income starts going up, your credit starts going up until it reaches a peak. Okay? After that, the more income you earn, your credit starts going down. And that's because as you get to the higher end of the income spectrum, you become what the government considered self-sufficient, right? So you don't need the credit. But it's a pretty generous credit for those who are single, at least for this 2021 tax year. It's a very generous credit for those who have children. So, anybody that thinks they're entitled, even if now, and this is the problem we have. A lot of people earn, say, $10,000, $11,000. They think they don't have to file because everybody tells them, well, you don't really have to file a return because your earnings are so low. It's true, you don't have to file according to the IRS's thresholds, but you should file, because when you file, you get back all of your withholding. If you had withheld income tax withheld, you get that all back. Plus, you probably qualify for this credit, and that's another, at least a couple hundred, all the way up to 15. So those are the things that I think people get confused about. A lot of people don't file. The government used to put out stats about how many people don't claim the credit, and it was pretty standard that about like 20% of those who are eligible don't claim the EITC. That's a lot of money that's going down the drain. So, yes, and you can amend your return to claim the earned income tax credit for the previous 3 years.
Okay.
So,
earned income tax credit, check that one out. looks like a good opportunity to get some money back that you didn't think was out there. Does your tax assistance also include amendments? Then, so somebody already filed in another year, but it's eligible to use you, and do you help them with lookbacks on amendments?
Yes, we do amendments, but only for a certain amount of years. I think right now it goes back about 5 years. It's whatever the taxpayer system allows us to go back. I think they go back about 5 years. So maybe 2016.
And then I probably should have asked this up front, but does the VITA program that you run, can people get assistance through you if they qualify for state of Hawaii taxes as well, or is your program specific to the IRS and federal taxes?
Oh, no. We file state returns as well.
Oh,
And with respect to Hawaii, there are credits that they should, like be aware of, um, such as the food and excise tax credit, which I told you about. If you're blind, deaf, or totally disabled, you get a disability exemption of 7,000. If you're in the reserve components of the military, the reserve, not active, reserve components, or in the Hawaii National Guard, you also get additional exemptions. So yes, we do tax returns. Right?
so
So
these credits that you just mentioned, these are state law credits. They're not federal law credits, so they're not available at the federal level. And the
right,
federal credits are not necessarily available at the state level. There's mixing sometimes on some of the credits, but you're talking about specific state tax credits, which people are eligible for as well.
absolutely, and we do both so that they get the maximum amount of um, credits and refunds that they're entitled to. The other thing on the federal side, though, that they should be aware is that usually only people who itemize can claim charitable deductions. But for the last, I think, 2020 and 21, the federal government is allowing you to claim up to $300 in charitable cash contributions on your federal return, even though you don't itemize. So if you do have cash contributions, you should keep tabs at that and let the tax preparer know. I also want to make a note that COVID has affected us drastically. Um, a lot of our larger sites had to close down, and so we're now starting back up again. And so we don't have as many sites as we used to, but we're also doing a lot of things on a drop-off pickup basis to prevent having the volunteers have to sit down for a long extended period of time with people. So they drop off their documents, we verify ID, they have to pick up their returns the following week. That's how most of my sites are operating this year.
So you have physical sites then. Maybe I should have asked that up front. I mean, you have had physical sites in the past, and are these offices that open during tax season, or are they open all year round?
It's some sites are at nonprofits, so they're open all year. Some sites are at credit unions. The sites themselves and my site coordinators at these sites, it's up to them how long they want to open. So some of them will close down after, April 20th, which is the deadline for the state returns. But if something arises and people have to file a return for an emergency, we usually have some volunteers who are willing to do that. We do have physical sites that pop up during the year as well. Right now, we're finishing up a site at Lanakila Senior Center. Next month, every Saturday we'll be on the Big Island at one of the county offices. And those sites just operate during the season because these are basically locations that we get either loaned to us, like through the county, we make a reservation, or a nonprofit that has an open room that we can use. But it's not some place that we operate regularly from. So it's a mixture. And one of the largest sites that actually did close down is Leeward Community College. We had a huge site there, but they closed because of COVID. Hopefully they're going to start up again. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you was, I mean, we're obviously not out of the woods yet on COVID here, but that site the Leeward site, for example, that would have been just during tax season itself, or not all year round, right?
No, not all year round. It was during tax season. They recruited a lot of their students, which was great. I do also train high school students. So we have an instructor that he's been great. She's been training some high school students, and they used to go there and do returns. So that was also a nice training ground. But we were doing about 500 to 600 over there.
Wow.
And yeah, now it's closed. So we're sort of trying to shuffle people to different places and things like that. It's been very chaotic since COVID.
And I guess speaking of that somewhat, the comments that we were making earlier about, the backlog in terms of the Internal Revenue Service at the federal level and the advice to file electronically at the federal level, especially for prompt refunds, including direct deposit to your financial institution. Is that all the same at the state of Hawaii level? Do we also have a backlog of processing of returns at the state level? And is that the same advice? File electronically and provide your bank or other financial institution for a direct deposit refund?
Yes, absolutely. I would. The state is maybe not as bad as the IRS with respect to the paper returns, but you do have quite a long delay if you file paper. So you should file both electronically. And in the event that you owe money, you can still e-file and then mail the payment in. We give you a voucher that you can mail in before the deadline date. If you find that you can't come up with all of the funds that you owe, either the state or the federal, there are options, and including installment payments. Usually, we will tell them to contact the IRS to set up such as anything like an installment payment. They can set that up themselves, or they can try to get an additional 120 days to pay. Those are all options. They have to realize, though, that if they don't pay on time, they're still incurring penalties and interest.
Right.
So,
right.
But, and I want people to kind of understand this. We work with our IRS and IRS's program, but we are not the IRS.
Right.
So when people call us and start asking us to do certain things, these are not things that we can do. We can just refer them.
Right. Do you have either online or in person general information events that you offer? Are any of those coming up, or has COVID kind of hampered that?
COVID sort of hampered that, but we are working on a revamp of our website. And at that time, people should be able to see, at least by the end of the season, whether we're going to have extended sites or workshops and things like that. But right now, it's really hard to have anybody sort of commit to a location, and of course, we have like mask requirements and things like that. So.
Do you do anything like what we're doing right now, just kind of get online and try to publicize it and take all comers for information?
I would do that if I had time. but during tax season, it is so hard for us to do anything but taxes.
Sure.
So we were hoping that we could put up some YouTube videos with general information, but it's really difficult because the tax laws have been changing pretty quickly.
Yeah. You talked about your activities going on primarily during tax season, but just to make sure everybody knows, you're available all year round, right? For assistance and help and general advice. I mean, that this is not just within tax season, at least for you. I mean,
no.
You bring in volunteers during tax season, but the program itself exists all year round.
The program exists all year round because basically after tax season, what happens is we have to start recruiting more sites for the following year. We start volunteer recruitment in the fall. During the summer, we do workshops. And it comes pretty quick because we recruit people, but there's a lot of IRS paperwork that has to get done. And then when the volunteers come on, they have to train and get certified. Every volunteer is trained. And needs to get certified online through an IRS exam.
Right.
Unfortunately, the training materials often don't come until like holiday season, like November and December, because the tax laws are changing all the way up to that time. So the timing is really, really bad. But yeah, we're pretty busy the whole year. And we can help people if they contact me. I try to direct them to the right resource, or I answer simple questions. They just have to understand that I cannot give them financial advice.
Right.
I can't tell them whether they should roll over to a Roth IRA or, withdraw their fund. I can't do that kind of things, but we can give them information that might help them make a decision.
Right. Okay. Well, what time has gone by pretty fast here. What did I not ask you that you'd like everybody to know?
I think we've covered a lot considering that taxes are so complicated. But I mean, I think most of all, if you haven't earned a lot of income, but you have earned some income, I think it would behoove you to go and find out what you're entitled to with respect to taxes. So tax credits. I think you should file a return. I think everyone should opt to file electronically if possible. If you don't trust putting your bank account on the return, you can opt to electronically file and get a paper check. But still, it's faster if you electronically file. If you paper file if you submit a paper return, you are going to be waiting a really long time, longer than usual because of COVID.
Which is really critical to many, many people. Again, that's the number one area, especially in taxes, that's coming into my office right now, or people that need that refund right away and have depended on it, that they're being delayed on it. So that is a huge national issue having to do with really underfunding the IRS over too many years. And not giving it the resources it needed to process these returns promptly, and then the complications of COVID-19. All right, Susan, if you just hang a second here, I'm going to ask Derek Clark. First of all, I'm going to introduce Derek. So Derek, if you could, show everybody what you look like. So, and Derek is my assistant here in Honolulu. And there's Derek. He's one office over from me. Derek is full-time here in Honolulu. He is dedicated to constituent services in a number of areas, one of which is taxes. And so he is actually, for my office, the best resource into my office for your own individual needs. Derek, if you could just put your email in the chat room, and but I'll also read it. It's Derek, DERRICK .Clarke, CLARKE, Derek.Clarke at mail.house.gov, mail.house.gov. There you go. My office, my email again is ed.case at mail.house.gov. Case.house.gov is the quickest way into my office, case.house.gov. And for Susan, I'm going to repeat www.hawaiitaxhelp.org. www.hawaiitaxhelp.org, and S. Tamanaha, just like you see on the screen, S. Tamanaha at hawaiitaxhelp.org. I think that's right.
Sorry, it's at Hawaii Tax Help, not the .org on the email.
Sorry. Okay. Got it. Derek, anything to add that we've missed that we want people to know?
No, I think Susan did a great job and you asked all the right questions, sir. I would just like to reiterate to anyone who needs assistance, they'll reach out to Susan's organization. Or if you've heard this and are interested in volunteering to help specific populations file their taxes, reach out to be a volunteer as well. And if you need updates on anything with the IRS, please reach out to our office. I'd be more than happy to chat with you and convey anything that you would like over to the Congressman if he's not available. We can also kind of liaise between the IRS and yourself for information regarding your returns or various other tax related and IRS topics. We have a good working relationship with them and are often able to at least get an answer when that's all you've been trying to do for months and months. So yeah, we're here, more than happy to help. And thank you, Susan and Congressman. Appreciate it.
Thank you. The other resource is irs.org. irs.org is IRS's general website. And there you can find your way pretty fast to their tax assistance, tax advice services. And I want to repeat the one thing I mentioned early on in the show, which is that in addition to the assistance that the IRS provides through VITA, through Susan here in Hawaii, and whatever assistance we can provide in terms of our contacts with the IRS. Again, there is an ombudsman who is technically an IRS employee, but no loyalty to the IRS, loyalty only to, it's really the customer service side of the IRS, and they are responsible for advocating, for reviewing your claims and disputes with the IRS and for advocating within the IRS. And we meet regularly with the ombudsman just to compare notes so that we all have to pay our taxes, but it should be as easy a process and as fair a process as possible. And so that's our goal here. Okay, well, I think we're coming to the end of our time. Susan, any last words on anything at all?
No, I think you covered everything pretty well. If they have additional questions, they can email me, and I will answer them as best I can.
Okay, thank you so much to Susan Tamanaha for your time, for your service over 15 years. It's a great service, and people should take advantage of things the federal government offers. That's my goal, is to get those resources over to you so you can use them. Again, please remember to think of my office and me when you need help with your federal government, not just on taxes, or if you just have questions or want to provide your advice or your guidance or ask why I did something or other. I am here both in DC and in Honolulu, and I definitely want to hear from you and to keep in touch. And I thank you for the opportunity from my office and I to serve you. And we'll sign off at this point. Mahalo.